Alright, so everybody knows the back end of pretty much every motorcycle. The Z125s have this big, bulky rear end there. So I bought this cheap Amazon Motorsports fender eliminator license plate mount compatible with Kawasaki Z125s. So I'm gonna go ahead and replace this today. This is kind of what it looks like. So we're gonna be going to this from that. And the instructions, I mean, for something that's Chinese, it seems like it's stepped out pretty good. Tools required: 4mm Allen flathead screwdriver, 10mm hex socket, Phillips screwdriver, 10mm socket and ratchet, and the needle nose pliers. And over here on my Nissan workbench, should have everything that I need ready to go. So step one is to remove the seat. Success. Seat's removed. Step two is remove the reusable cable guide with pliers and disconnect the turn signal connectors, gray and black 2-pin connectors. So that's one right there, and then it should be these two here. They're actually sitting in like a little clip to the frame, and they'll slide up so they're easier to access. And there we go. Alright, so now we're going to disconnect the electrical connectors for the taillight. 3-pin connector on the left shifter side subframe rail. Move connector out of the way. And there is figure 3. We'll use the screwdriver to push down on the pin. There we go. There is another connector over here I'll probably pop off. There's one more connector sitting underneath here. It's a little rubber. There's the rubber piece. I have a feeling that's going to be harder to put back on and make that one a little more difficult to get to. Remove the OEM rear fender from the motorcycle by removing the bolt. Use the custom Nissan workbench. Removed. Alright, remove the OEM license plate light. See if maybe I can't screw that up on the next one. I don't know how much of these rubber pieces I'm going to need on the next one. I'm going to need those. And just push right through. Remove the turn signals by removing the cover plates. Alright, pull that out, pull that out, pry out with flathead screwdriver. Got it, I see what they're saying. There's this little piece in here that gets pried out. Twist and pop out. Install the license plate light into the fender eliminator using the factory screws and washer plate. There we go. Bushings are in. This was on the back. Let's get license plate light in first, run it back through, and we'll run this back through. Alright, a little plate goes back on top of that. Lights back on there. Install the turn signals. Install them by starting the portion of the turn signal that is pointing towards the front of the motorcycle and slide it into the cutout, and then rotating the entire signal until it pops through the fender. I feel like this is going to be probably the worst part. Oh, I really feel like I almost had that one. Into the slots, push forward. Finally, I'd say it probably took me like 30 minutes just to get that one thing on. Now I got one more to go. I did take the screws and the metal piece out of here, thinking I could slide it in. But it's just a lot of working at the rubber and pushing that piece in. It finally went. But all right, I had to take a break and come back to it, but we got this back on here. All right, we got both turn signals in there. These little keepers that are inside the rubber piece here are probably the worst part of this whole thing. It was the hardest thing to do. I think it took me about an hour. Past the 3 electrical connectors with a turn signal and license plate light through the slot, and then through the supplied rubber grommet. Install the grommet into the slot and pull the wires snug. There's the rubber grommet in there. We'll go with the big one first. And then the 2 turn signals. Install the fender eliminator on the motorcycle first by passing electrical connectors through the rectangular hole in the tail section. Use supplied hardware, 4x4mm Allen head bolts, lock washers, and fender washers. Alright, there's that square hole. Doesn't even really say how to reroute it, but anyways, it's going to go through here. And then we'll probably get those bolts back in. All right, we got the washers and the bolts in. These two are going to be a little bit harder because they're sitting in the back. We got to get everything up in there. I think we're using new ones because the old ones are not long enough. And then they have some nuts that go on them too, but they do thread into the old holes that are there. All right, here's the completed project. That's kind of what it's looking like. It looks way better than the old one. That's the old one, looking way better. So it probably took maybe 30-45 minutes for most of the replacement, and then about another 45 minutes just for those little screw plates on the turn signals. That was the worst part of the project. Anyways, looks good. It's all done.